hello. How is everybody? How art thou? How are you? How has your day been? Doing a different kind of stream today. I have a bit of a headache, but I've been wanting to get back into reading. I've missed my books. I've missed my books. Yeah, we've already started. Just haven't started reading yet, I guess. Um, I haven't read books in a while. It's been a hot minute. Ever since I became disabled, it was hard for me to read books. But I have gotten better. I have gotten better medications and stuff, so I can read a little bit more. And we're gonna see how long, honestly, that I can last. I'm actually very excited to see. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm good. Just a slight headache. Slight headache. Hello. Hello. Welcome in. Welcome in. Hi. Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. We're gonna be doing a different stream today. No games. We're gonna be reading a book. One of my favorite book series, actually. Yeah. This is my VTube model. I am Vixie Nocturne. I am a magical demon fox. And yeah, I don't really know much of my lore because I wrote it at like 3 a.m., so I haven't really had it memorized. But basically, I'm just a magical demon fox, pastel goth demon fox. And I cause a lot of mischief over the internet. And today we're doing book reading. So we're just gonna sit here and relax and start on reading one of my favorite book series. Because it's been a while and I kinda miss it. I kinda miss reading a lot. I miss books. I do. I have like boxes. Boxes full of books that I haven't been able to open for God knows how long. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you think I'm pretty. It's very sweet of you. Very kind. Yeah. I hope you guys are ready. You guys enjoy. We're going to get started. If you haven't, make sure you get some snacks. Get some popcorn. Get your favorite drink. Make sure you hydrate. Cozy. Gonna read a book. And there's multiple books in this series. So I think it's actually longer than Twilight, if I remember correctly. So it's gonna be an ongoing series for a little bit. Then we'll switch to a new one. Thank you. So yes, let's get started. So the book that we're starting on is called Vampire Kisses. It is the first book in the Vampire Kisses series. It is by Ellen Schreiber. She is a really, really sweet lady. Very, very sweet. I love all of her books. For the daily check-in. Start with Chapter 1, Little Monster. First happened when I was 5. I had just finished coloring in my kindergarten book. It was filled with Picasso-like drawings of my mom and dad, and Elmer's glued tissue paper collage and the answers to questions: favorite color, pets, best friend, etc., written down by our 100-year-old teacher, Miss Peevish. My classmates and I were sitting in a semicircle on the floor in the reading Bradley, what do you want to be when you grow up? Miss Peevish asked after all other questions had been answered. A firefighter, he shouted. Cindy, a nurse, Cindy Warren whispered meekly. Miss Peevish went through the rest of the class, police, officers, astronauts, football players. Finally, it was my turn. Raven, what do you want to be when you grow up? Miss Peevish asked, her green eyes staring right through me. I said nothing. An actress? I shook my head. A doctor? Nuh-uh, I said. A flight attendant? Yuck, I replied. Then what? She asked, annoyed. I thought for a moment, I want to be... Yes? I want to be a vampire, I shouted to the shock and amazement of Miss Peevish and my classmates. For a moment, I thought she started to laugh. Maybe she really did. The children sitting next to me inched away. I spent most of my childhood watching others inch away. I was conceived on my dad's waterbed or on the rooftop of my mom's college dorm under twinkling stars, depending on which one of my parents is telling the story. They were soulmates that couldn't part with the 70s. True love mixed with drugs, some raspberry incense, and the music of the Grateful Dead. A beaded, jeweled, halter-topped, cut-off blue-jeaned, barefooted girl intertwined with long-haired, unshaven Elton John's spectacled, sun-tan, leather-vested, bell-bottomed, and sandaled guy. I think they're lucky I wasn't more eccentric. I could have wanted to be a beaded, haired hippie werewolf, but somehow I became obsessed with vampires. Sarah and Paul Madison became more responsible after my entrance into this world. Or I'll rephrase it and say my parents were less glassy-eyed. They sold the Volkswagen Flower Power van that they were living in and actually started renting property. Our hippie apartment was decorated with 3D glow-in-the-dark flower posters and orange tubes with Play-Doh substance that moved on its own, lava lamps, that you could stare at forever. It was the best time ever. 3 of us laughed and played chutes and ladders and squeezed Twinkies between our teeth. We stayed up late watching Dracula movies, Dark Shadows with the infamous Barnabas Collins, and Batman on black and white TV. We'd received when we opened a bank account. I felt secure under the blanket of midnight, rubbing Mom's growing belly, which made noises like the orange lava lamp. I figured she was going to give birth to more moving Play-Doh. Everything changed when she gave birth to Play-Doh, only it wasn't Play-Doh. She gave birth to Nerd Boy. How could she? How could she destroy all the Twinkie nights? Now she went to bed early, and that creation that my parents called Billy cried and fussed all night. I was suddenly alone. It was Dracula, the Dracula on TV, that kept me company while Mom slept. Nerd Boy wailed, and Dad changed smelly diapers in the darkness. If that wasn't bad enough, suddenly they sent me to a place that wasn't my apartment, that didn't have wild 3D flower posters on the walls, but boring collages of kids' handprints. Who decorates around here? I wondered. It was overcrowded with Sears catalog girls in frilly dresses and Sears catalog boys in tapered pants and perfectly combed hair. Mom and Dad called it kindergarten. They'll be your friends, my mom reassured me as I clung to her side for dear life. She waved goodbye and blew me kisses as I stood alone beside the matronly Miss Peevish, which was as alone as one could get. I watched my mom walk away with Nerd Boy on her hip as she took him back to the place filled with glow-in-the-dark posters, monster movies, and Twinkies. Somehow I made it through the day, cutting and gluing black paper on black paper, finger painting Barbie's lips black, and telling the assistant teacher ghost stories while the Sears catalog kids ran around like they were all cousins at an all-American family picnic. I was even happy to see Nerd Boy when Mom finally came to pick me up. That night, she found me with my lips pressed against the TV screen trying to kiss Christopher Lee in horror of Dracula. Raven, what are you doing up so late? We have school tomorrow. What? I said. The hostess cherry pie that I had been eating fell to the floor, and my heart fell with it. But I thought it was just the one time, I said, panicked. Sweet Raven, you have to go every day. Every day? The words echoed inside my head. It was a life sentence. That night, Nerd Boy couldn't hope to compete with my dramatic wailing and crying.
As I lay alone in my bed, I prayed for eternal darkness and a sun that never rose. Unfortunately, the next day, I awoke to a blinding light and a monster headache. I longed to be around at least one person that I could connect with. I couldn't find any yet, at home or school. At home, the lava lamps were replaced with Tiffany-style floor lamps. Glow-in-the-dark posters were covered with Laura Ashley wallpaper, and our grainy black and white TV was upgraded to a 25-inch color model. At school, instead of singing the songs of Mary Poppins, I whistled the theme to The Exorcist. Halfway through kindergarten, I tried to become a vampire. Trevor Mitchell, a perfectly combed blonde with sparkling green eyes, was my nemesis. From the moment I stared him down when he tried to cut in front of me on the slide, he hated me because I was the only kid who wasn't afraid of him. Kids and teachers kissed up to him because his father owned most of the land their houses sat on. Trevor was in a biting phase, not because he wanted to be a vampire like me, but just because he was mean. He had taken pieces of flesh out of everyone but me, and I was starting to get ticked off. We were on the playground standing by the basketball hoop when I pinched the skin of his puny little arm so hard I thought blood would spurt out. His face turned beet red. I stood motionless and waited. Trevor's body trembled with anger, and his eyes swelled with vengeance as I mischievously smiled back. Then he left his dental impressions in my expectant arm. Miss Peevish was forced to sit him against the school wall, and I happily danced around the playground waiting to transform into a vampire bat. That raven is an odd one, I overheard Miss Peevish saying to another teacher as I skipped past the crying Trevor, who was now throwing a fit against the hard black top. I blew him a grateful kiss with my bitten hand. I wore my wound proudly as I got on the school swing. I could fly now, right? But I need something to take me into warp speed. The seat went as high as the top of the fence, but I was aiming for the puffy clouds. The rusty swing started to buckle when I jumped off. I planned to fly across the playground, all the way to a startled Trevor. Instead, I plummeted to the muddy earth, doing further damage to my tooth-marked hand. I cried more from the fact that I didn't possess supernatural powers like my heroes on TV than because of my throbbing flesh. With my bite trapped under ice, Miss Peevish sat me against the wall to rest while the spoiled, snot-nosed Trevor was now free to play. He blew me a teasing kiss and said, "Thank you." I stuck out my tongue and called him a name I had heard a mobster say in The Godfather. Miss Peevish immediately sent me inside. I was sent inside a lot during my childhood recesses. I was destined to take a recess from recess.
And that was the first chapter. Hello, Kev. Hello, welcome in. We're doing book reading. Thank you for the head pats.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I hope you're having a good day. You're having a good day. You're reading Vampire Kisses, and we just got done with chapter 1. If you would like, you could sit and stay. Sit and stay. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I have a bit of a headache, so if you're doing some light reading, will be pretty good. Though I am not really good at the ASMR part, I guess, of the reading. Yeah, no, it's fine. I get headaches quite often. It's almost daily. I appreciate it. Chapter 2, Dullsville. The official welcome sign to my town should read, "Welcome to Dullsville." Bigger than a cave, but small enough to feel claustrophobic. Population of 8,000 lookalikes, a weather forecast that's perfectly miserable all year round. Sunny, fenced-in cookie-cutter houses, and sprawling farmland. That's Dullsville. The 810 freight train that runs through town separates the wrong side of the tracks from the right side. Cornfields from the golf course. Tractors from the golf carts. I think the town has it backward. How can land that grows corn and wheat be worthless than land filled with sand traps? The 100-year-old courthouse sits on the town square. I haven't gotten into enough trouble to be dragged there yet. Boutiques, a travel agent, a computer store, a florist.
second-run movie theater all sit happily around the square. I wish our house could lie on the road tracks on wheels and carry us out of town, but we're on the right side near the country club. Dolesville. The only exciting place is an abandoned mansion an exiled baroness built on top of Benson Hill, where she died in isolation. I have only one friend in Dolesville, a farm girl, Becky Miller, who is more unpopular than I am. I was in third grade when I officially met her, sitting on the school steps waiting for my mom to pick me up, late as usual. Now that she was trying to be a corporate Kathy, I noticed an impish girl cowering at the bottom of the steps, crying like a baby. She didn't have any friends, since she was shy and lived on the east side of the tracks. She was one of the few farm girls in our school and sat 2 rows behind me in class. "What's wrong?" I asked, feeling sorry for her. "My mom forgot me," she hollered, her hands covering her pathetic wet face. "No, she didn't," I consoled. "She's never this late," she cried. "Maybe she's stuck in traffic." "Think so?" "Sure. Or maybe she got a call from one of those nosy salespeople that's always asked, 'Is your mother home?'" "Really? Happens all the time." Or maybe she had to stop for snacks and there was a long line at 7-Eleven. "Would she do that? Why not? You have to eat, don't you? So never fear, she'll be there." And sure enough, a blue pickup drove up with one apologetic mother and a friendly, fluffy sheepdog. "My mom says you can come over Saturday if it's okay with your parents," Becky said, running back to me. No one had ever invited me to their house before. I wasn't shy like Becky, but I was just as unpopular. I was always late for school because I overslept. I wore sunglasses in class and I had opinions, atypical in Dolesville.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Thank you for joining.
Becky had a backyard sign as big as Transylvania. Great place to hide and play monsters and eat all the fresh apples a growling third grader stomach could handle. I was the only kid in our class who didn't beat her up, exclude her, or call her names, and I even kicked anyone who tried. She was my three-dimensional shadow. I was her best friend and her bodyguard. Still am. When I wasn't playing with Becky, I spent my time applying black lipstick and nail polish, scuffing my already worn combat boots, and burying my head between Anne Rice novels. I was 11 when our family went to New Orleans for vacation. Mom and Dad wanted to play blackjack on the Flamingo Riverboat Casino. Nerd Boy wanted to go to the aquarium, but I knew where I was going. I wanted to visit the house of Anne Rice's birth, the historical homes she had restored, and the mansion she now called home.
Does it? Yeah, I would like to know. Let me see if I can fix that. Hold on. Probably because I am speaking in a different register than I normally do. I can fix it. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, how is that? Is that better? Again, I am speaking in a different register than I normally do. Is that a little bit better? Okay, I shall continue. Where did I lead off? Oh my god. Where did I leave off? Let's see. Historical
There we go.
Ah, found it. Found my place.
I stood mesmerized outside its iron gate, a gothic mega mansion.
Oh, you're good. I appreciate it. I would rather know, not know, so I can fix it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I stood mesmerized outside its iron gate, the gothic mega mansion, my mom, my uninvited chaperone. By my side, I could sense ravens flying overhead, even though there probably weren't any. It was a shame I hadn't come home at night. It would have been that much more beautiful. Several girls who looked just like me stood across the street taking pictures. I wanted to rush over and say, "Be my friends, we can tour the cemeteries together." It was the first time in my life I felt like I belonged. I was in the city where they stack coffins on top of one another so you can see them instead of burying them deep within the earth. There were college guys with two-tone spiky blonde hair. Funky people were everywhere except on Bourbon Street, where the tourists looked like they'd flown in from Dolesville. Suddenly, a limousine pulled around the corner. The blackest limo I had ever seen. The driver, complete with a black chauffeur's hat, opened the door and she stepped out. I freaked and watched motionless, like time was standing still. Right before my eyes was my idol of all living idols, Anne Rice. She glowed like a movie star, a gothic angel, a heavenly creature. Her long black hair flowed over her shoulders and glistened. She wore a golden headband, a long flowing silky skirt, and a fabulous vampirish dark cloak. I was speechless. I thought I might go into shock. Fortunately, my mom's never speechless. "Could my daughter please have your autograph?" "Sure," the queen of nocturnal adventures sweetly replied. I walked toward her as if my marshmallow legs would melt under the sun at any moment. After she signed a yellow post-it note my mom found in her purse, the gothic starlet and I were standing beside each other, smiling, her arm around my waist. Anne Rice had agreed to take a picture with me. I had never smiled like that in my life. She probably smiled like she smiled a million times before. A moment she'll never remember, a moment I'll never forget. Why didn't I tell her I loved her books? Why didn't I tell her how much she meant to me? That I thought she had a handle on things like no one else did. I screamed with excitement for the rest of the day, reenacting the scene over and over for my dad and Nerd Boy at our antique-filled pastel pink bed and breakfast. It was our first day in New Orleans, and I was ready to go home. Who cared about a stupid aquarium, the French Quarter, blues bands, and Mardi Gras beads when I'd just seen a vampire angel? I waited all day to get the film developed, only to find that the picture of me and Anne Rice didn't come out. Sullen, I retreated back to the hotel with my mother. Despite the fact she and I had appeared in photographs separately, could it be possible that the combination of the two vampire lovers couldn't be captured on film? Or rather, it was just a reminder that she was a brilliant selling writer and I was a screamy, dreamy child going through a dark phase. Or maybe it was that my mom was a lousy photographer.
Yeah. How we liking it so far? How we liking it? You guys liking it? I hope you guys are having a good night. I actually read very fast on a normal basis, so actually reading out loud is actually keeping me at a better pace, reading wise, because I read really, really fast. So it's very helpful. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. Let's continue. Chapter 3, Monster Mash. Yes, it is Vampire Kisses, book 1 of Vampire Kisses series. By Ellen Schreiber. Yes, it's very cool. Much better than Twilight, honestly. At least in my opinion. Yeah. Also has a manga adaptation, too. Very cool. I like it. I got like 3 signed copies. It's like my favorite book series. Yeah. I won a Halloween contest twice. And then the third one was just cause. She's really cool. I enjoy a lot of her work. She also did a wolf series as well, werewolf series. Yeah. Chapter 3 Monster Mash.
My sweet 16th birthday, shouldn't all birthdays be sweet? Why should 16 be any sweeter? It seemed like a lot of hype to me. Hillsville, they celebrate today, my 16th birthday, as any other day. It all started with nerd boys shouting at me, "Get up, Raven. You don't want to be late. It's time for school." How could two kids come from the same parents and be so different? Maybe there is something to that theory about the mailman. But in Nerd Boy's case, my mother must have had an affair with a librarian. I dragged myself out of bed and put on a black cotton sleeveless dress, black hiking boots, and outlined my full lips with black lipstick. 2 white flowered cakes, one in the shape of a 1 and the other in the shape of a 6, awaited me on the kitchen table. I grazed the 6 cake with my index finger and licked the icing off. "Happy birthday," my mom said, kissing me. "That's for tonight, but you can have this now," she said, handing me a package. "Happy birthday, Rave," my dad said, also giving me a kiss on the cheek. "I bet you have no idea what you're giving me," I teased my dad as I held the package. "No, but I'm sure it cost a lot." I shook the light package in my hand and heard a rattle. I stared at the happy birthday wrapping paper. It could be the keys to a car, my very own Batmobile. After all, it was my 16th birthday. "I wanted to buy you something special," my mom said, smiling. I read the package open excitedly and lifted the jewelry box lid. A string of shiny white pearls stared back at me. "Every girl should have a pearl necklace for special occasions," my mom gleamed. This was my mom's corporate version of hippie love beads. I forced a crooked smile as I tried to hide my disappointment. "Thanks," I said, hugging them both. I began to put the necklace back in the box, but my parents glared at me, so I reluctantly modeled it for them. "It looks gorgeous on you," my mom glowed. "I'll save them for something really special," I replied, putting them back in the box. The doorbell rang, and Becky came in with a small black gift bag. "Happy birthday," she shouted as we went into the living room. "Thanks, you didn't have to get me anything." "You say that every year," she teased, and handed me the bag. "By the way, I saw a moving van last night outside the mansion," she whispered. "No way, someone finally moved in?" "Guess so, but all I saw were the movers carrying in oak desks, grandfather clocks, and huge crates marked soil. And they have a teenage son. He was probably born wearing khaki pants, and I'm sure his parents are some boring Ivy Leaguers," I replied. "I hope they don't remodel it and chase out all the spiders. Yeah, and tear down the gate and put up a white picket fence. And plastic goose on the front lawn." We both giggled like mad as I stuck my hand into the bag. "I wanted to buy you something special since you're 16. I pulled out a black leather necklace with a pewter charm. The charm was a bat. "I love it," I screamed, putting it on. My mom leered at me from the kitchen. "Next time we'll give her money," I heard her tell my father. "Pearls," I whispered to Becky as we left the house. I was in gym class wearing a black shirt, shorts, and combat boots instead of required white-on-white gym shoes. Really, what's the point, I thought. Does a white ensemble make a student a better athlete? "Raven, I don't feel like sending you to the office today. Why don't you just give me a break for once and wear what you're supposed to wear?" Miss Harris, the gym teacher, whined. "It's my birthday. Maybe you could give me a break this once." He stared at me, not knowing what to say. "Just today," he finally agreed, "and not because it's your birthday, but because I'm not in the mood to send you to the office." Becky and I giggled as we went off toward the bleachers, where the class was waiting. Trevor Mitchell, my kindergarten nemesis, and his shuffling sidekick, Matt Wells, followed us. They were perfectly combed, conservative, rich soccer snobs. They knew they were great looking, and it made me sick that they were so cocky. "Sweet 16, Trevor said, obviously having overheard my chat with Mr. Harris. "How lovely, just ripe for love, don't you think, Matt?" They were close on our heels. "Yeah, dude," Matt agreed. "But maybe there's a reason she doesn't wear white. White is for virgins, right, Raven?" He was gorgeous, no doubt about it. His blue eyes were beautiful, and his hair looked as perfect as a model's. He had a girl for every day of the week. He was a bad boy, but he was a rich bad boy, which made him very boring. "Hey, I'm not the one wearing white underwear, am I?" I asked. "You're right, there's a reason I wear black. Maybe you're the one who ought to get out more." Becky and I sat on the far end of the bleachers, leaving Trevor and Matt standing on the track. "So how are you spending your birthday? Trevor shouted, sitting with the rest of the class loud enough for everyone to hear. Even Farmer Becky sitting home on a Friday night watching Friday the 13th, maybe placing some personal ads. 16-year-old, single, white monster girl seeks mate to bond with her for eternity. The whole class laughed. I didn't like it when Trevor teased me, but I liked it even less when he teased Becky. No, we were thinking of crashing Matt's party tonight, otherwise there won't be anyone interesting there. Everyone was shocked, and Becky rolled her eyes as if to say, "What are you dragging me into now?" We had never been to one of Matt's highly publicized parties. We were never invited, and we wouldn't have gone if we were. At least I wouldn't. The whole class waited for Trevor's reaction. Sure, you and Igor can come, but remember, we drink beer, not blood. The whole class laughed again. Trevor high-fived Matt. Just then, Mr. Harris blew his whistle, signaling us to hightail it off the bleachers and run like greyhounds around the track. But Becky and I walked indifferent to our sweating classmates. I can't go to Matt's party, Becky said. Who knows what they'll do to us? We'll see what they do. Or what we'll do. It's my sweet 16th, remember? A birthday to never forget.
Yeah, the throwables are turned off for reading. The throwables are turned off. Sorry. I do have it pinned in the chat that they are turned off. Sorry about that. I don't want it to disturb the reading. Yeah. How are we liking it so far? Enjoying the coziness? Enjoying the cozy reading? We are now on chapter 4. Truth or Scare? Chapter 4.
The most exciting thing to happen in Dullsville in my lifetime in chronological order.
Yay, food. Okay. Definitely get cozy. Definitely get that food. Get that food. Food is good. Food is good for the soul. Yeah. Gonna be reading. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in.
The most exciting things to happen in Dullsville in my lifetime in chronological order. 1. The 310 train jumped its track spilling boxes of Tootsie Rolls, which we devoured. 2. The senior flushed a cherry bomb down the toilet, exploding the sewage line, closing school for a week. 3. On my 16th birthday, a family rumored to be vampires moved into the haunted mansion on top of Benson Hill. Legend of the mansion went like this. It was built by a Romanian baroness who fled her country after a peasant revolt in which her husband and most of his family were killed. The baroness built her new home on Benson Hill to resemble her European estate in every detail, except for the corpses. She lived with her servants in complete isolation, terrified of strangers and crowds. I was a small child at the time of her death and never met her, although I used to play by her solitary monument in the cemetery. Folks said she would sit by the upstairs window in the evenings staring at the moon, and that even now, when the moon is full, if you look from the right angle, you can see her ghost sitting in the same window, gazing at the sky. But I never saw her.
Incoming ad. We shall hold for ad. I don't know how to turn off ads. I will figure it out though. But we shall hold for ads. Give everybody a chance to get in here. We hold for ads. If I knew how to figure out how to get rid of ads, I would. I would. I hate ads so much. I'm going to take a water break. That break is almost over. Yay! Welcome back. Welcome back. We held for the ad. Held for the ad. Again, I wish I knew how to turn them off. I do not know how to turn them off. Don't be turned off, actually. If I can find a way, I will. I will turn them off. If I find a way. But let us continue. Let us continue. The mansion has been boarded up ever since. Rumor had it, there is a witch-like Romanian daughter interested in black magic. In any case, she wasn't interested in Dullsville. Smart lady. I never claimed the place. The mansion on Benson Hill was quite gorgeous to me, in its gothic way, but an eyesore to everyone else. It was the biggest house in town, and the emptiest. My dad says that's because it's in probate. Becky says it's because it's haunted. Oh no. Fix my mic. There we go. Hopefully that's better. Look, it accidentally hit it. My bad. My bad. Learning. I am learning. First ASMR free stream. Yes. Gonna be close. Gonna be close. The mansion, of course, had always fascinated me. It was my Barbie dream house, and I climbed the hill many nights hoping to spot a ghost, but I actually went inside only once, when I was 12. I was hoping I could fix it up and make it my playhouse. I was going to put up a sign that said, "No nerd boys allowed." One night, I climbed the wrought iron gate and scurried up the winding driveway. The mansion was truly magnificent, with vines dripping down its sides like falling tears, chipping paint, shattered roof tiles, and a spooky attic window. The wooden doors stood like Godzilla, tall and powerful, and locked. I snuck around the back. All the windows were boarded up with long nails, but I noticed some loose boards hanging over the basement window. I was trying to pull them loose when I heard voices. I crouched behind some bushes as a gang of high school seniors stumbled near. Most were drunk, and one was scared. "Come on, Jack, we've all done it," they lied, pushing a guy wearing a baseball cap toward the mansion. "Go in and get us a shrunken head." I could see Jack Patterson was nervous. He was a handsome, crush-worthy guy, the kind who should be spending his time shooting hoops or making girls swoon, not sneaking into haunted houses to win friends. It was like Jack had already seen a ghost as he approached the mansion. Suddenly, he looked behind the bushes where I was hiding. I gasped, and he screamed. I thought we were both going to have a heart attack. I crouched back down because I heard the gang approaching. "He's screaming like a little girl, and he's not even in yet," one of them teased. "Get out of here," Jack said to the guys. "I'm supposed to do this alone, right?" He waited for the others to retreat and then nodded to me that it was clear. "Damn, girl, you scared me. What are you doing here?" "I live here and lost my keys. I'm just trying to get back in," I joked. He caught his breath and smiled. "Who are you?" "Raven. I already know who you are. You're Jack Patterson. Your father owns the department store where my mom buys her swank purses. I've seen you working the cash register." "Yeah, I thought you looked familiar. So why are you here?" "It's a dare. My friends think the place is haunted, and I'm supposed to sneak inside and get a souvenir." "Like an old couch?" He smiled that same smile. "Yeah, goofball, but it doesn't matter. There's no way." "Yes, there is," and I showed him the loose boards at the basement window. "You go in first," he said, prodding me forward with trembling hands. "You're smaller." I slithered easily through the window. Inside, it was really dark even for me. I could barely make out the cobwebs. I loved it.
There were stacks of cardboard boxes everywhere, and it smelled like a basement that had been there since the beginning of time. Come on already, I said. I can't move, I'm stuck. You have to move. Do you want them to find you with your backside hanging out? I yanked and pushed and pulled. Finally, Jack came through to my relief, but not his. I led the terrified senior through the moldy basement. He held onto my hand so tight I thought he would break my fingers. But it was nice to hold his hand. It was big and strong and masculine, not like nerd boys whose tiny hand was always felt squishy and smarmy. Where are we going? He whispered in a terrified voice. I can't see a thing. I could make out the shapes of massive chairs and sofas covered with dusty white cloth, probably once belonging to the old woman who stared at the moon. I see some stairs, I said. Just follow me. I'm not going any further. Are you crazy? How about a full-length mirror? I teased, peeking behind a cloth. I'll take one of these empty boxes. That's no good. Your friends will kill you. You'll be a laughingstock for the rest of your life. Believe me, I know how it is. I looked back at him and saw the terror on his face. I wasn't sure if he was scared of his friends outside or of the basement steps that might cave in at the slightest pressure. Or maybe he was afraid of ghosts. Okay, I said, you wait here. Like I could go anywhere. I have no idea how to get back. But first, what? Let go of my hand. Oh yeah. He let me go. Raven? What? Be careful. I paused. Jack, do you believe in ghosts? No, of course not. So you don't think there's a ghost here? Of that old woman? Shh, don't talk so loud. I smiled with expectation, but then I remembered his gang stare and grabbed his baseball cap. He screamed again. Relax. It's just me. Not one of those spooky ghosts you don't believe in. I carefully ascended the creaky steps and bumped into a closed door at the top, but it opened when I turned the knob. I was in a wide hallway. Moonlight was shining through cracks in the boarded windows. The mansion seemed even bigger on the inside. I caressed the walls as I walked, and the dust softly taking my hands. I turned a corner and stumbled upon a grand staircase. What treasures lay at the top of it? Is that where the ghost of the Baroness appeared? I tiptoed up the stairs, as mouse-like as I could in my heavy combat boots. The first door was locked, as was the second and third. I leaned my ear to the fourth door, and I heard the sound of faint crying from the other side. A cold chill ran through me. I was in heaven. As I listened closer, I realized it was only the wind whistling through the boarded windows. I opened a closet, which creaked like an old coffin. Maybe I'd find a skeleton. The only thing I discovered, however, were several old hangers sporting cobwebs instead of clothes. I wonder where the ghosts were. I peered into the library. An open book lay on a small table, as if the woman who stared at the moon had been reading it when she died. I grabbed a Romanian castles off the shelf, hoping it would open a secret passage into a spook-filled dungeon. Nothing moved except a hairy brown spider that scooted across the dusty shelf. Oh, you didn't think so? But the next moment, I heard a loud sound and nearly jumped through the roof. It was the honking of a horn. Startled, I dropped the book. I had totally forgotten about Jack's gang and my new mission. I ran back down the staircase, leaping over the last steps. A bright light was beaming through the boarded-up windows in the living room. I climbed onto the bay window and peered out, safely hidden behind the boards. I could see the seniors sitting on the hood of their car and headlights shining up through the gate of the mansion. One of them was looking in my direction, so I pushed Jack's cap out through an opening between the boards and waved it like I had just landed on the moon. I felt triumphant. The seniors gave thumbs up in reply. I found Jack in a sweat, sitting in a corner of the basement on top of some wooden crates. He must have been thinking about rats as well as ghosts. He grabbed me like a child grabs his mother. What took you so long? I replaced the cap on his head. You'll need this. What did you do with it? I let them know you made it in okay. Ready? Ready? And he pulled me back through the window like the place was on fire. I noticed he didn't get stuck this time. We shoved the board back in place. It looked as if we had never been there. We don't want this to be easy for anyone else, I said. He stared back like he didn't know what to make of me, or how to thank me. Wait, I didn't get a souvenir, he realized. I'll go back in. No way, he said, grabbing my arm. I thought for a moment. Here, take this. I gave him my necklace, a black leather band with an onyx medallion. It only cost $3, but it looks like it was owned by a baroness. Just don't let anyone appraise it. But you did all the work, and I'll get all the credit. Take it before I change my mind. Thanks. He weighed the necklace in his hand and gave me a warm kiss on my cheek. I hid behind the crumbling gazebo as he ran back down to his buddies, dangling the necklace in front of their faces, getting high fives. They adored him now, and so did I. I held my filthy hand against my freshly kissed cheek. After that day, Jack hung out with the cool club and even became class president. From time to time, I'd see him around the town square, and he'd always have a huge smile for me. I didn't have a chance to return to my Barbie dream house. Word spread that Jack had snuck into the mansion, fearful that more kids might break in. Police patrolled the area at night. It would be years till I visited the mansion again.
Okay. Thank you, Kev. Thank you for joining in. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you again soon. Glad you like it. Thank you. I literally said I was wanting to read. Piano. I don't do like normal ASMR, but reading I can do. It's one of my fave series, so get cozy if you want to enjoy it. Get cozy. We are on chapter 5 of Vampire Kisses now. A new family has just moved into the mansion on top of Benson Hill. We're basically getting to know some of the characters of the series in a slow pace. So I hope you enjoy. This is one of my favorite series. And it is better than Twilight. And I will continuously say that. Better than Twilight. Okay. Chapter 5. A light in the window. Still sweaty from gym class, Becky and I passed the mansion on our way home. I noticed something I had never seen before. A light in the window. Windows weren't boarded up anymore. Becky, look! I screamed with excitement. This was the best birthday present of all. There was a figure standing in the attic window staring up at the stars. Oh no, it's true. Raven, there are ghosts, she screamed, clutching onto my arm. Well, this ghost drives a black Mercedes, I said, pointing to the snazzy car parked in the driveway. Let's go, she pleaded. Suddenly, the attic light went out. We both gasped at the same time. Becky's nails dug into my thrift store sweater. We waited, wide-eyed and speechless. Come on, let's go, Becky said. I didn't move. Raven, I'm already late for dinner. We'll be doubly late for Matt's party. Got the hots for old Maddie, I teased, my eyes glued to the mansion. But when she didn't reply, I turned to her to face her. Becky's cheeks were flushed. You do, I said with a gasp, and you think I'm weird, I declared, shaking my head. Raven, I gotta go. I would have waited till morning, but whoever was inside wasn't coming out. The light in the attic window had lit a fire in my soul. I saw a Mercedes parked at the mansion, I informed my family at dinner. I was late as usual, this time for my own birthday dinner. I heard they look like the Addams family, Nerd Boy said. Maybe they have a daughter your age, someone who doesn't like to get into trouble, my mother added. Then I'd have no use for her. Maybe she has a father I can play tennis with, my father said, hopefully. Whoever it is, we'll need to get rid of all those old mirrors and crates, I added, not realizing what I had said. They all looked at me. What crates? My mom asked. Don't tell me you've snuck into that house. It's just something I heard. Raven, my mother said in that disapproving mother tone. It seemed no one in Dolesville had seen the new gnomes. It was wonderful to have a mystery in this town for a change. Everyone already knew most everything that happened in Dolesville, and most of it wasn't worth knowing. Matt Wells lived on the good side of town at the edge of Oakley Woods. Becky and I arrived late and entered the party like we were movie stars entering a premiere. Rather, I did. Poor Becky hung tightly to my side like she was visiting the dentist.
It'll be okay, I reassured her. It's a party. But I knew why she was nervous. We were subjecting ourselves to ridicule when we could have been safely at home watching TV, like Trevor said. But why should the snobs have all the fun? Just because Matt's bedroom was the size of my living room? Just because we didn't wear clothes that were in? So that meant I should sit home on my 16th birthday? I felt like Moses parting the Red Sea as a crowd of snobs dispersed from the hallway upon our entry. Our classmates eyeballed me, decked out in my usual gothic garb. Too bad Tommy Hilfiger wasn't there. He'd have been flattered. Everyone was wearing his clothes like a school uniform. The sound of Aerosmith rocked throughout Matt's living room. A thick layer of smoke hung above the couches, and the smell of beer permeated the air like cheap incense. Couples who weren't staring approvingly or staring disapprovingly at us were staring adoringly at each other. It was going to be useless to try to talk to anyone. I can't believe you showed up, Matt said, spotting us in the hallway. I'd take a picture, but I don't know if you'd be visible. Yet, despite his bark, Matt wasn't as cruel as Trevor. Beers are out back, he then said. Want me to show you the way? Becky was in awe of Matt. She shook her head and locked herself in the hallway bathroom. Matt laughed and headed for the kitchen. I waited in the living room by a concert-sized speaker, perusing the CDs. Michael Bolton, Celine Dion, and a bunch of show tunes. I wasn't surprised. I went back to check on Becky and found the bathroom door open. She wasn't in the hallway, so I walked through the crowd of hammered classmates to the kitchen. A group of $100 hairstyle girls glared at me and left, leaving me alone. Or so I thought. Hey, sexy monster chick, a voice said behind me. It was Trevor. He was leaning against the wall next to me, a can of Budweiser dangling from his hand. Does that line work for you at every party? He smiled a seductive smile. I've never kissed a girl with black lips before. You've never kissed a girl before, I said, and walked past him. He grabbed my arm and pulled me back to him. He looked at me with his blue eyes and kissed me on the mouth. I have to admit, he was a great kisser, and it didn't hurt that he was gorgeous. Trevor Mitchell had never even touched me, much less kissed me, except when he bit me in kindergarten. The most I ever got was a thump on the head when I walked too close to him. He had to be drunk. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe he was just trying to mess me up. But the way his lips felt against mine, it seemed like we were both enjoying it. I didn't know what to think as he pulled me out the back door past an inebriated couple mashing on the steps, past garbage cans and the fountain under tall trees and darkness. Are you scared of the dark, monster girl? The woods let so little light in. It was hard to make out the red stripes on his sweater. No, I quite like it. He pushed me up against a tree and started kissing me for real. His hands were everywhere. On me, on the tree. I've always wanted to kiss a vampire, he said, coming up for air. I've always wanted to kiss a Neanderthal. He laughed and went on kissing me. So does this mean we're going together? I asked. Now I was the one coming up for air. What? Like when we go to school, we'll hold hands in the halls, hang out together at lunch, see movies on the weekends. Yeah, whatever. Then we're going together. Yeah, he laughed. You can watch me play soccer and I can watch you turn into a bat. He began softly biting me on the neck. I bet you like it like this, don't you, monster girl? My heart sank. Of course I didn't really want to be Trevor's girlfriend. It's not like he was Mars and I was Venus. We weren't even from the same universe. And I didn't even like him, really. I knew why he'd brought me out here. I knew what he wanted to do, and I knew who he was going to tell. And at the end of it all, he might win $10 from all his betting buddies for getting the goth chick. I had hoped he was going to prove me wrong. Instead, he was proving me right. It was time to get down to business. Want to see why I don't wear white? Want to fly with me? Yeah, he smiled, sort of startled, but very eager. I bet you fly like Supergirl. I urged him over the picket fence into the woods. I could obviously see better than he. My nocturnal habits had always made me a great observer in the dark. Not as good as a cat, but close. I felt safe and secure, with the beautiful moon now guiding me. I looked up and saw several bats fluttering over the trees. I'd never seen bats in Dullsville, but I didn't go to that many parties either. I can't see, Trevor said, removing a branch from his hair. As we walked on, he flailed his arms like he was going to hit something. Some people are violent drunks. Some are slobbering drunks. But Trevor was a terrified drunk. He was really becoming quite unattractive. Let's stop here, he said. No, just a little bit further, I said, following the bats as they flew into the woods. It's my 16th birthday. I want this to be a night I'll never forget. We need total privacy. This is plenty private, he said, groping around and trying to kiss me. We're almost there, I said, tugging him on. The lights from the house could no longer be seen, and we couldn't walk 5 steps without hitting a tree. This is perfect, I finally said. He squeezed me hard, not because he loved me, but because he was afraid. It was pathetic. There was a gentle wind blowing through the trees, and the smell of autumn leaves. I heard bats chirping high overhead. The full moon illuminated their wings. It would have been romantic if only I had a real boyfriend with me. Trevor was completely blind in the darkness, feeling everything with his hands and lips. He kissed me all over my face and touched the small of my back. Even blind, it didn't take him long to find the buttons on my shirt. No, you first, I told him. I lifted off his sweater as unclumsily as I could. I had never done this before. He was wearing a V-neck t-shirt underneath and an undershirt underneath that. This is going to take forever, I thought. I felt his naked chest. Why not? It was right in front of me. It was soft and smooth and muscular. He pulled me closer, my lacy black rayon shirt touching his naked torso. Now you, baby, I want you so bad, he said.
Thank you for following. Hi. Hi, welcome in. Welcome in. You're the 600th follower. Hi. Hello, hello. Hello, welcome in. We're reading Vampire Kisses. You're welcome to sit and join. Get cozy. Eat a snack. Hello, hello. I shall continue. Where did I leave off?
I cannot remember where I left off. Okay. Now you, baby. I want you so bad, he said, straight out of some skin flick on cable. Me too, baby, I sighed, rolling my eyes. I leaned him down slowly on the damp earth. I slid off his loafers and socks. He eagerly took off the rest. He lay propped up on his arms, completely naked. I stared down at him in the faint moonlight, savoring the moment. How many girls had Mr. Gorgeous laid out by a tree only to cast them aside the next day? I wasn't the first and I wasn't going to be the last. I was just going to be different. Hurry up, come over here, he said. I'm cold. Well, just be a minute. I don't want you to see me undress. I can't see you. I can't even see my own hands. Well, just hang on. I had Trevor Mitchell's clothes in my arms. His sweater, v-neck, undershirt, khaki, socks, loafers, and underwear. I had his power, his mask. I had his whole life. What was a girl to do? This girl ran. I ran so hard like I had never run before. Like I had been training every day in phys ed class. If Mr. Harris could have seen me then, he surely would have put me on the track team. The bats flew off too, as if they were in sync with my movements. I quickly reached the house. Trevor's ensemble waddled in my arms. The snobs drinking on the back porch were too busy talking about their shallow lives to notice me emptying a trash bag half filled with beer cans and stuffing in Trevor's clothes. I carried the bag to the house and grabbed a startled Becky by the arm. She was delivering beer to a table of poker players. Where were you? She screamed. I couldn't find you anywhere. I was forced to wait on these creeps. Back and forth, beer chips, and now cigars. Raven, where am I supposed to get cigars? Forget about the cigars. We've got to run. Hey, Toots, where are those pretzels? A drunken jock demanded. The bar is closed, I said in his face. Great service demands a great tip. I grabbed his poker earnings and stuffed them into Becky's purse. Time to go, I said, pulling her away. What's in the bag? She asked. Trash. What else? I pushed her out into the front door. The nice thing about not having friends was there's no one to say goodbye to. What happened? She kept asking as I pulled her across the front yard. Her 10-year-old pickup truck sat at the end of the street, waiting for us like home base. Where were you, Raven? You have leaves in your hair. I waited until we were halfway home before I turned to her with a huge grin and shouted, I screwed Trevor Mitchell. You did what? She shouted back, almost swerving off the road. With who? I screwed Trevor Mitchell. You didn't. You couldn't. You wouldn't. No, I mean figuratively. I screwed him so bad, Becky. I have the clothes to prove it. And I pulled them out of the trash bag one by one. We laughed and shrieked as Becky turned a corner near Benson Hill. Somehow Trevor would find his way out of the darkness, but he wouldn't have his rich threads to mask himself. He'd be naked, cold, alone, exposed for who he really was. I would remember my sweet 16th birthday for the rest of my life, and now Trevor Mitchell would too. As we drove along the desolate country road that twisted around Benson Hill, the headlights shone against the creepy trees. Moss attacks the windshield as if warning us to choose another way. The mansion's totally dark, I said as we approached it. Want to stop for a lick-see? Your birthday's over, Becky said in an exhausted voice, keeping her foot on the gas pedal. We'll go next year. Suddenly, the headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. Watch out, I yelled. A guy with moonlight white skin and long black hair clothed in a black coat, black jeans, and black Doc Martens quickly raised his arm to shield his eyes, seemingly from the glare of the headlights rather than the imminent impact of Becky's pickup. Becky slammed her brakes. We heard a thud. Are you okay? She cried. Yes, are you? Did I hit him? She yelled, panicking. I don't know. I can't look, she said, hiding her head on the steering wheel. I can't. She started to cry. I jumped out of the truck and anxiously peered around the front, afraid of what I might find lying in the road. But I saw nothing. I checked underneath the truck and looked for dents. On closer inspection, I noticed blood splattered on the fender. Are you okay? I called out, but there was no response. I grabbed a flashlight from Becky's glove compartment. What are you doing? She asked, worried. Searching? For what? There was some blood. Blood? Becky cried. I've killed someone. Calm down. It could have been a deer. A deer doesn't wear black jeans. I'm calling 911. Go ahead, but where's the body? I reasoned. We weren't going fast enough to catapult him into the woods. Maybe he's under the truck. I already looked. He probably just bumped him and he took off, but I want to make sure. Becky grabbed my arm, digging her nails into my flesh. Raven, don't go. Let's get out of here. I'm calling 911. Lock the door if you have to, I said, tearing myself free. But keep the engine and the lights on. Raven, tell me this, Becky exclaimed breathlessly, gazing at me with terrified eyes. What normal guy would be walking in the middle of a pitch-black road? Do you think he might be I felt a pleasant tingle of goosebumps on my arms. Becky, don't get my hopes up. I combed the bushes that went down to the creek. Then I headed for the hillside leading up toward the mansion. I let out a shriek. What is it? Becky cried, rolling down the window. Blood, thick puddles in the grass. But there was no body. I followed the bloodstains, afraid bits of his corpse were strewn everywhere, and then I tripped over something hard. I looked down, anticipating a severed head. I apprehensively shone my flashlight on it. It was a dented paint bucket. Is he dead? Becky gasped as I returned to the truck. No, but I think you may have killed his can, I said, dangling the bucket in front of her. What was he doing painting in the middle of the night? And where was he going? It was just paint, Becky said as with a gasp of relief, hanging up her cell phone and reviving the engine. Let's get out of here. What was that jerk doing walking in the middle of the road at night? I wondered out loud. Maybe he was going to paint some graffiti or something. Where did he come from? Or could he have gone so fast? She mumbled back at me. In the rearview mirror, I caught the reflection of the darkened mansion just in time to see a light go out in the window.
How's everybody doing? Just checking in between chapters. We are now on chapter 6. Chapter 6. I am okay. I hope everybody else is okay. We shall continue on to chapter 6. Yes? I hope you guys are enjoying it. I haven't heard from y'all in a while. So, just curious. But we shall continue. Alright. Chapter 6 Exposed. The story of naked Trevor spread immediately through Dolesville High. Some students said he stumbled into Matt's house in a trash bag diaper. Others said he was found passed out naked on the back lawn. No one had a clue I was involved. Only Trevor Boy knew the real story. Apparently, he tried to pass it off to his buddy as an encounter with a cheerleader. Either way, everyone got a laugh. Trevor left me alone. He wouldn't even make eye contact with me. Gothic girl had finally gotten the goods on the popular soccer snob. But I didn't want him to accuse me of theft. I had to give his clothes back, right? First, there was the shoe. I think it was the left. I strung it on the outside of my locker. At first, no one seemed to notice the hanging loafer. Those who finally did look at it and walked on. But the next morning, it was gone. One person had noticed it. Now it was time for others to take notice, besides good old Trevor. The right brown loafer was strung up in the same fashion, but next to it was a sign, "Missing something, Trevor?" This time I heard giggles as students passed. They didn't realize whose locker it was, but they'd soon be catching on. Each day, a sock would hang out, or a t-shirt. Started noticing snob girls who would never talk to me suddenly looking over in algebra with smiling approval. They had been Trevor Tree girls, promised everything with nothing to show for it. Well, I had plenty to show. By the time his khaki pants were hung out, complete with grass stains and dirt, everyone knew whose locker it was. Now kids in the hall were grinning at me. Guys weren't exactly asking me out, but I was suddenly popular. In a quiet kind of way. Except, of course, with Trevor. But I felt safe. Now that everyone knew whose locker it was, he would be the prime suspect if anything happened to me. But he did make the odd threat. "I'll kick your ass, monster," he said one day. He grabbed my jaw in his hands when Becky and I were starting to walk home. "Combat boots hurt more than loafers, Neanderthal," I shot back. My face was pressed between his hands. "Let her go," Matt said, pulling him away. I could see even Matt had enjoyed my prank. I'm sure he got tired of Trevor's attitude sometimes. After all, he was stuck being Trevor's best friend. "You'll never be anything more than a freak," Trevor shouted. Fortunately, Matt pulled him away again. I didn't feel like going to battle after a long day at school. "You just wait. You just wait," he called back to me. "Talk to my lawyer," I yelled, secretly hoping I wasn't going to need a plastic surgeon instead. Time for the grand finale. Lots of students were gathered around my locker. I even saw a freshman taking pictures. It was the climax everyone had been waiting for. Trevor's white Calvin Klein underwear hot glued to my locker. The sign underneath read, "White is for virgins, right, Trevor?" It would be up there for a while. Everyone saw it. I mean, everyone. "Raven, you deface school property," Principal Smith scolded me later that day. I had been in Principal Smith's office so many times, it was like seeing an old friend. "Those lockers have been here forever, Frank," I replied. "Maybe it's time you tell the school board we need new ones." "I don't think you see the seriousness involved here, Raven. You ruined a locker and embarrassed an honor student." "What honor? Ask your straight-A cheerleaders and half the drill team how many times he's embarrassed them." Principal Smith rattled his pencil in frustration. "We need to get you involved in something, Raven. Some club you can belong to. Something that will help you make friends." "The chess club have any openings? Or how about the math club?" I asked sarcastically. "There are other activities." "Can you guarantee me a spot on the cheerleading squad, of course?" "I'd have to wear a black pleated skirt." "That's one you have to try out for, but I bet you'd be great. Obviously, honor students like Trevor really respect cheerleaders." "Raven, high school is hard for most kids. That's just the way it is. Even the people who look as though they belong usually don't feel like they belong. But you have so much going for you. You're imaginative, you're smart, you'll figure it out. Just don't damage any more lockers while you're trying to find the answers." "Sure, Frank," I said, taking the detention slip. "See you soon." "Not too soon, okay, Raven?" "I'll try not to work you too hard," I said, and closed the door.
The next day, I noticed something on my locker that I hadn't put up. In black paint was written, "Raven is a horror." I smiled. Very clever, Trevor, very clever. I felt warm inside. It was the first time he had ever complimented me.
I need chapstick. My lips hurt. And we are in an ad. I will wait. I will. I didn't even know my tail was gonna do that. Ad break is almost done. And we are back. Welcome back, everybody. We are now on chapter 7. I hope you guys are enjoying the book. You guys are enjoying this time. You guys are cozied up and got snacks and everything. I will probably still continue the series even if it doesn't really take off, just because I want the ability to read again. I do miss reading a lot, and I don't really get to have much time to myself to do many hobbies. So basically, I'm gonna use this as my own little outlet to kind of just read. You know, nice to read some books, even with a small community who likes books too, likes reading or listening to me read. I guess. Um, Once I get done with the majority of the series that I want to read, then we can probably start taking some suggestions on what to read next, which I am okay with. Because I would love to expand my horizons in books, honestly. Because again, I have missed reading. It's been almost a decade since I've been able to read a book. It has been a struggle. So, this is honestly actually kind of a test. Just kind of a test stream right now. See if I can last reading a book and not have a terrible migraine by the end of it. So, but so far it's been pretty okay. I mean, I did already start with a headache, so I don't think that helps. But as I said, I have been working on fixing my neurological issues. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this series with me as we're reading. Continue to enjoy it because yeah, it's just gonna become a regular thing for a little while. Just because I really enjoy reading. So we are going to continue. We are on chapter 7 now. So let's continue. Chapter 7, Happy Halloween. What a perfect chapter name. Halloween, my favorite day of the year. The one day of the year that I fit in. It's the only day everyone accepts and compliments me. And I even get rewarded for it by generous neighbors who don't think I'm too old to celebrate, or are more likely to afraid of what my tricks would be. But this year I decided I really wanted to wear a costume. I shopped in stores I usually never went to. I borrowed things from my mom. I strangled my hair into a ponytail and pink berets, and I wore a lusciously soft white cashmere sweater with a pink tennis skirt. I gave myself a healthy glow with some of my mom's base and blush and wore a soft plum lipstick. I even carried my mom's tennis racket. I went around the house saying things like, "Mummy dear, I'll be home after my tennis lesson." Nerd Boy didn't recognize me as I passed him in the kitchen. Then his mouth dropped open when he realized it was me, not a neighbor's kid dropping over for some sugar. "I've never seen you look so good," he said, dressed as a baseball player. "I thought I was going to be sick there then and there." My parents wanted to take pictures. Go figure. They were acting as if I was going to prom. I let them take just one. I figured my dad should finally have a picture of me he could proudly hang on at his office. Becky and I were eating lunch in the cafeteria later that day. Everyone looked at me like I was the new girl. Really, no one recognized me. It was fun at first, then a bit annoying. I got stares when I dressed in black. I got stares when I dressed in white. I couldn't win. Then Trevor came into the cafeteria dressed as Dracula. His hair was slicked back, and he was sporting a black cape. He had plastic fangs and red-hot lips. I stood with Matt as he glanced all around to find me. He wanted to rub his new look in my face. Matt finally pointed to me, and Trevor did a double take. He stared at me long and hard, looked me up and down. I had never seen him gaze at me like that before. It was as if he was in major crushville as he checked out my preppy white sweater and healthy glow. I thought for sure he'd come over and say something stupid, but instead he sat at the opposite side of the cafeteria with his back to me. He even left before I did. I was free of him, but I was wrong. I should have known our truce wouldn't last. My little pumpkin basket was almost filled with Smarties, Snickers, Mary Jane's Jolly Ranchers, double bubble gum, and lots of other tasty treats. And most importantly, spider rings and temporary tattoos. Becky and I had walked all over town and now wondered what awaited us at the front door of the mysterious mansion. We were saving the best house for last. Apparently, so was everyone else. There was actually a line to the front door. It was like we were at Disney World. Fools, punks, bums, Mickey Mouse, Fred Flintstone, and Homer Simpson were all eagerly waiting their turn. And a bunch of coiffed parents who showed up to steal a peek inside. The circus was in town and everyone had come to look at the freaks. "He's really creepy," a 12-year-old Frankenstein remarked to a pint-sized werewolf as they passed us. Nerd Boy spotted me and Becky as we walked down the driveway. "It's well worth the wait, Raven. You'll love it. This is my sister," he proudly said to his geekoid Batman friend, who looked at me with junior crush boy eyes. "Did you see any shrunken heads or monsters with fangs?" I asked. "No. Then maybe we're wasting our time. The old man is really freaky. He looks scary. He isn't even wearing a costume." I could see Nerd Boy was trying to bond with me, since this was the first time he could actually show me off to his friend. But I could also see Nerdo was expecting a verbal body slam. "Thanks for the info." "Thanks. Yeah, of course, sis. I'll see you at home if you want to trade in candy bars." Nerd Boy nodded willingly. He smiled and left like he had finally met his long-lost sister. Becky and I eagerly waited our turn. We were last in line, and as Charlie Brown and a witch who were in front of us stepped away with their goods, the door closed. I looked at the S-shaped knocker and wondered if it was the initial of the new owner. When I peered closer, I saw it was a serpent with emerald eyes. I rapped it gently, hoping the gothic guy would answer. I wanted to ask him if he was the one on the road the other night, and if so,
what he had been doing. Most people got their exercise at the gym, not on spooky country roads in the dead of night. But no one answered. Let's go, Becky suggested nervously. No, we waited forever for this, and I'm not turning back until I get some candy. He owes us. I'm tired. We've been out all night. It's probably just some creepy old guy who wants to go to bed, and I do too. We can't leave now. I'm going home, Raven. I can't believe you're so chicken. Come on, I thought we were best friends. We are, but it's late. Okay, I'll call you tomorrow and I'll tell you all about Mr. Creepy. There weren't enough treaters walking around that I wasn't afraid for Mousy Becky. She'd get home safe, but would I? I stared at the serpent knocker and wondered what stood behind the huge wooden door. Maybe the new owner would pull me inside and hold me captive in his haunted mansion. I could only hope. I knocked again and waited. And waited. I knocked again. I banged and banged. My hand was starting to hurt. I dashed around to the side, and then I heard the locks coming unlatched and the creaky door open. I quickly ran back up the front steps, and there he was, standing before me. Creepy man. He was tall and skinny, his face and hands pale as snow in sharp contrast to his dark butler's uniform. He had no hair, not like he had lost it, but like he'd never had any, and bulging green monster eyes. He looked like he had been alive for centuries. I loved him. We have no more candy, miss, he said in a deep foreign accent as he peered down at me. Really? But you must have something. Some peanut butter twists, a piece of toast. He opened the door no further than necessary. I couldn't see anything behind him. What did the place look like inside? How had it changed since I had snuck in 4 years before? And who were we? And did they look creepy too? We could all be friends. I felt someone watching looming, and I tried to step past the doorway. Who else lives here? I asked boldly. Do you have a son? I don't have any children, miss. And I'm sorry, but we don't have a crumb left. He started to shut the door. Wait, I blurted out and blocked the door open with my shoe. I reached into my pumpkin basket and pulled out a Snickers and a spider ring. I'd like to welcome you to the neighborhood. This is my favorite candy and my favorite Halloween treat. I hope you like them too. He almost didn't smile, but then as I placed the treats in his spidery snow-white fingers, he smiled a creaky, crackly, skin-toothed smile. Even his bulging eyes seemed to twinkle. See you, I said, dancing down the steps. I had met the creepy man. Everyone in town could say they had gotten candy from him, but who else could say they had given him a treat? I spun around on the front lawn and looked back at the grand mansion. I saw a shadowy figure watching from the attic window. Was it Gothic guy? I quickly stopped spinning and stared back, but there wasn't anyone there, just the ruffle of a dark curtain. I had just passed through the iron gate when a ghoulish vampire in a red Camaro drove up to the curb. Want a ride, little girl? Trevor asked. Matt, the farmer, sat comfortably behind the wheel. My mother told me not to talk to strangers, I said. Taking a difficult bite of a Mary Jane, I was not in the mood for a Trevor confrontation. I'm not a stranger, babe. Aren't you too old to be trick-or-treating? Aren't you too old to be toilet papering the town? Trevor got out of the car and came over to me. He looked particularly sexy. Of course, I find all vampires sexy, even fake ones. What are you supposed to be? He asked. I'm dressed up as a freak, can't you tell? He was trying to be cool, but was stepping on himself. I was the only girl that had said no to him, the only girl in town he could never have. I had always been a mystery because of the way I dressed and behaved, and now I was standing before him dressed as his perfect dream girl. So you're visiting Amityville by yourself? He stared up at the mansion. You're a wicked chick, aren't you? He glanced down, sending chills through me. He was gorgeous in his Dracula cape. I said nothing. I bet you've never kissed a vampire before, he said, his plastic teeth shining in the moonlight. Well, when you see one, let me know, I said, and started to walk away. He grabbed my arm. Give it a rest, Trevor. He pulled me in closer. Well, I've never kissed a tennis player, he joked. I laughed. It was such a corny line. He kissed me full on the mouth, his plastic teeth getting in the way, and I let him. Maybe I was still dizzy from spinning on the lawn. He finally came up for air. Well, now you have, I said, pulling away. I think Farmer Matt is waiting for you. I didn't get any candy, he said, fingering my pumpkin basket. He pulled out a Snickers bar. Hey, that's my favorite, he said, taking a peanut butter visit. He He gobbled up the Snickers with his vampire teeth, which came loose and fell on the ground. Dripping with chocolate and caramel, I quickly reached for them, but he grabbed my arm, spilling my candy everywhere. "Look what you've done," I shouted. He grabbed handfuls of candy and stuffed them into his jeans. I watched as my remaining treats were strewn across the lawn. The only candy I could salvage were some boring Smarties and smashed Mars bars. "Still want to be an item?" he asked, his pockets stuffed full with my night's work as he pulled me close. "Still want to be my girlfriend?" Suddenly, he let me go and started towards the door. "Now I'll get some real candy." I grabbed his arm this time. Who knew what Trevor would do if he reached the door? "Miss me already?" he asked, startled that I hadn't run away. "You're out of candy." "Well, I'll just see about that. Their lights are off. They went to sleep. This'll wake them up." He pulled out a can of spray paint from underneath his cape. "They definitely need someone who knows how to decorate." He walked on toward the mansion. I ran after him. "No, Trevor, don't." He pushed past me. He was going to vandalize the one thing in this town that was truly beautiful. "No," I cried. He popped the lid and shook the can. I tried to pull his arm away, but he threw me down. "Let's see. How about welcome to the neighborhood?" "Don't, Trevor, don't. Or vampires love company. I'll sign your name." Not only was he going to face their property, he was going to frame me for it. He shook the can once more and began to spray the mansion. I rushed to my feet and pulled back my tennis racket I used to play with my father. And no game was more important to win than this one. I locked my eyes on the aluminum paint-filled cylinder as if it were a ball and smacked it as hard as I could. The can spun off into the distance, and like my usual game, I lost my grip and the racket went flying after it. Trevor let out a yell so loud I thought the whole world would hear. I guess I had hit more than the can. Suddenly, the front door light came on, and I heard the jingle of locks being unlatched. "We gotta get out of here," I yelled to Trevor, who was crouching down holding his wounded can. I was ready to make my escape when I felt something I had never felt before, a presence. I turned around and let out a soundless gasp because fear had taken my breath away. I stood frozen. There he was. Not creepy man, not Mr. or Mrs. Mansion family, but gothic guy, gothic mate, gothic prince. He stood before me like a knight of the night. His long black hair lay heavy on his shoulders. His eyes were dark, deep, lovely, lonely, adoringly intelligent and dreamy. A gateway into his dark soul. He, too, stood motionless, breathing me in. His face was pale like mine, and his tight black t-shirt was tucked into his black jeans, which were tucked into monster chick punk rock combat boots. Normally, fear is something I feel only when I know my mom's hosting a Mary Kay party and wants to use me as a model. But we were on private property, and my curiosity to meet this strange creature was overwhelmed by my terror of being caught. The tennis shoes really were a good choice tonight. I could hear Trevor yelling at me as he followed me in flight. "You monster, you broke my hand." I raced through the open gate and climbed into the waiting Camaro. "Drive me home," I screamed. "Now." Matt was startled by his unexpected passenger. He just stared at me in silent denial. "Drive me now, or I'll tell the police you were involved." "The police?" he blurted out. "What's Trevor got us into now?" I could see the angry Count Trevor running down the driveway, his cape flowing in the wind. He was almost at the gate. Gothic guy hadn't moved but continued to stare straight at me. "Drive, just drive the freaking car," I screamed at the top of my lungs. The motor started, and we peeled away until the mansion and its unusual occupants were out of view. I turned around and looked out the back window at a shouting Dracula Trevor chasing after us. "Happy Halloween," I said to Matt as I let out a sigh of relief.
Yay, we met. That's so nice. Now we met. How nice of us. So I think we are going to stop here. We are on chapter 8. So I think we're going to stop here. I need a bookmark. I don't have a bookmark. You know what? I'm going to use one of my credit cards. This credit card going to be a bookmark. So just going to stop here. I think that's all I can handle for today. And yeah, we will read out to someone else that is an ASMR creator. And We will do this again next week
Where we left off.
I have it bookmarked. I'm going to try to do it again on Monday. That way it can be a consistent book reading thing. So anyone who joins in can enjoy it. And all will enjoy together. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are cozy. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night, wonderful evening. It'll probably be later next time that I do this. That way you guys are like going to sleep and you guys can put me on so I can read you to sleep. So I'll probably do it later in the evening. I just wanted to try it and see. So we'll see how it goes. See how it goes. And I will see you in the next one. See you guys later. Bye bye.